Good evening and thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with drastic measures being taken to try to contain the outbreak of a mysterious pneumonia-like virus. Chinese authorities are effectively putting a quarantine on an entire city, cutting off Wuhan, where the potentially deadly coronavirus first emerged in December. Planes, trains, buses, subways, and ferries to and from that city of 11 million will be suspended tomorrow. The aim is to cut off transmission of the virus, but it is spreading. At least 17 people have died. More than 500 others are infected. There are now confirmed cases in South Korea, Taiwan, Thailand, Japan, and the U.S. There are no confirmed cases here in Canada, though tonight 5 people in Quebec who recently returned from China are being monitored. The World Health Organization has teams on the ground in China and is holding off on declaring a global health emergency for now. It's advising governments to be vigilant and ready to test anyone who has traveled to the affected region and has symptoms like cough and fever. Crystal Gamansing has our top story tonight.
They have no option but to get up close and care for those who are ill. The new strain of the coronavirus is spreading fast in China and beyond. Chinese officials in Wuhan have made masks mandatory and are implementing drastic measures to limit people's movements.
Taking the action that they think is appropriate is very important. We stress to them that by having a strong action, not only they will control the outbreak in their country, but they will also minimize the chances of this outbreak spreading internationally.
In Wuhan, where the virus first appeared in December, hospitals are overrun with people with flu-like symptoms. But in some cases, it can be much more serious. This new virus is in the same family as the common cold. It's triggering fear because it's also the same chain as SARS. Europe's busiest airport, Heathrow, will be screening for signs of illness on planes and asking more questions of people when they land.
We're also...
All right, Shalom Akim. I'd like to say Kahalayam, Wahawadla, Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai, Ba'asham Rakakwadash. Right, double honors the apostles and elders of Great Millstone and rule well. Peace and blessing to the Akim who will push this through to the 4 corners of the earth, right? There's your Abba from the GMS Trinidad East Camp. You know, I said I'll do a short video on this. Right, I'll read our scripture. There's 2 Corinthians 15, verse 5. It said, Behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world. It says sword, famine, death, and destruction. You understand? And pestilence is also one of those plagues. You understand? Because there's the tools that the Lord using to actually bring destruction to this place. And you're actually seeing these things becoming more rampant. Imagine something as simple as like something that replicates a coal that could killing people in days.
Asking them to self-declare, in other words, if they have any signs or symptoms, to let us know so that that can be assessed and any appropriate further assessment.
In just a few days, the virus has led to hundreds of confirmed cases and more than a dozen deaths. Containing the virus is critical. Wuhan is a large center and a commercial hub. UK officials anticipate the infection rate will reach into the thousands.
It is vital, clearly, that we understand the rate of human-to-human transmission. That will determine, frankly, the feasibility of control, and if control is feasible, what measures will be needed.
There is no vaccine. The virus is new, so no one knows exactly what it can do, and there's always potential for it to mutate. Officials with the World Health Organization will meet again Thursday as it continues to monitor the virus. Crystal Gamansing, Global News, London.
Trying to contain an outbreak of an infectious virus while not completely shutting down trade and travel is a balancing act. Canada's experience during the SARS outbreak in 2003, when 44 Canadians died, taught authorities many lessons. Tonight, Eric Sorensen takes a closer look at the new coronavirus and how...
So there Wisdom of Solomon 16 and stuff from 12. It says, for it was neither herb nor mollifying plasters that restored them to health, but thy word, O Lord, which healeth all things. Because we really know ultimately is the Most High that controls death, sickness, and all these things. They say, I wound and I heal, as the scriptures say, right? We know ultimately, no matter what form or fashion the Lord chooses to bring this about in the world, we know ultimately is the Lord that doing it. You see, verse 13, it says, for thou hast power of life and death. It says, thou leadest to the gates of hell and bring it up again. You understand? That is why the men of the Lord already have, the ones who worship the Lord and actually do his will, they don't have things like this to worry about. Ultimately, they know the one who has power over life and death. So in these times, the scripture even talk about drinking and eating things and not becoming sick, be able to drink poison and so forth. You understand? All these things is not really a problem to those that fear the Lord. You understand? That is what that is in second is just 1 second. I think it's a 15 of 15 around 20. Yeah, second, just 15 verse 24, right? To say, woe to them that sin and keep not my commandments, saith the Lord. It say, I will not spare them. It say, go your way, ye children, from the power, defile not my sanctuary. For the Lord knoweth all them that sin against him, and therefore delivereth he them unto death and destruction. So if you're actually doing the will of the Lord, you're actually doing these things that are written therein, these are not things that you have to worry about. You understand? Because we know ultimately the one who controls life and death, sickness and health. Right? Your job is really to do the will of the Lord and hope for mercy. Right? It says, for now, verse 27, it says, for now are the plagues come upon the whole earth, and ye shall remain in them, because the Most High. It says, for the Most High shall not deliver you, because ye have sinned against him.
Ready Canada is for it.
In Shanghai, they quickly sold out of face masks. As viruses go, it's still not clear how transmissible and how severe the novel coronavirus is.
How efficient is human-to-human transmission? Because really that's going to be one of the driving forces behind whether or not this turns into something a little bit larger or whether or not we're able to get this under control a little bit quicker.
There are many coronaviruses, from the new novel coronavirus to severe cases like SARS to the common cold. Coronaviruses are commonplace among animals. It's when they spread animals to humans, then from human to human, the risks increase. The novel coronavirus was first...
See, they talk about spreading from animals to humans, but how did they come up with that? How did they even come up with that? You understand? I'll go to the next video after.
Found in Wuhan, China, and has spread to nearby countries and to the United States. There's so much travel from China to the rest of the world, a further spread is entirely realistic. Compare with SARS. It also began in China. In 2003, there were more than 8,000 cases. 90% were in China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. But SARS spread to more than 30 countries. And outside Southeast Asia, Canada was as hard hit as any other country. An estimated 250 cases and 44 deaths.
It's been 18 years since SARS, and this is looking has many similarities to SARS in terms of, a big outbreak in China with lots of people hospitalized and in terms of some indications of international spread. Is it of international concern? Definitely.
Toronto in particular was hard hit by SARS and the global reaction to it. The World Health Organization told travelers to avoid coming here. Pamphlets were distributed at the airport. Healthcare workers were forced to wear more protection.
All right, I'll go to another video here.
An exploration and production unit of China's state energy giant has struck gold in an exploration well in northwestern region Xinjiang, in what could be another major onshore oil and gas find. Well, Arctic correspondent Saya Tavenger joins us to fill us in on the full story.
Scotty, China has been actively looking for ways to boost domestic oil and natural gas production to alleviate its dependence on imports. So this is a significant new find for the country.
So the Lord actually, I want to come across this this video also before I did the video. You understand? I was showing China progress, in oil reserves and all these different things. And all of a sudden you're seeing now that that the Chinese have this big outbreak of this flu-like disease that killing a lot of people on a rampant basis. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, it's something that was done to them by another country, but, you know, in a world like this, you always have to keep your mind open. Because right now, they are one of the biggest oppositions to the U.S., right? And that one case that they actually spoke about, the guy who actually contracted it in the U.S., who from the U.S., is because he went to China and came back with it. You understand? But that was it.
Country. Now, the discovery was made in the Tarim oil field, which is China's northwestern region and the country's third largest offshore energy producer. This is also the first time that China National Petroleum Corporation, or CNPC, has found oil and gas in a well this deep, which is estimated to be about 30,000 feet deep. So this is very rare because oil and gas wells in China typically range only from 600 feet to 16,000 feet. This new drilled well is expected to provide about 5% of the country's oil and natural gas needs. So this is huge. You know, China currently imports about 70% of the crude oil the country uses and also imports 50% of their natural gas. And as of 2019, China has record oil and gas imports and remains the #1 crude oil importer in the world after surpassing the U.S. in 2017 and the #2 natural gas importer behind Japan. And that's just too high a level for comfort, especially right now with tensions running high in the Middle East, which is one of China's largest supplier of crude. So developing domestic resources seems quite urgent as China aims to enhance domestic energy through increasing domestic exploration and reducing imports. And now China has made energy production a matter of national security and a priority for its oil and gas companies as its energy demand continued to grow while domestic production is just not nearly enough to cover the country's demand. China CNPC is...
Like I was saying, anytime you see a country actually becoming too self-sufficient, you know, automatically they'll start receiving a lot of problems unawares. You understand? Now, I'm not saying that is the case, but that is obviously food for thought. You understand? Because we know how Babylon does work. You understand? All of a sudden now it have a disease actually actually started off in China, and now it started spreading rampantly. Where did it come from? I saw certain articles that was talking about where they're saying people eating bats. This is nothing new to Chinese. Moab is eat bats. There's eat dogs. There's eat cats. I think it even have a delicacy where they just go up on a mountain and actually collect bird vomit or something like that. They are accustomed to eating abominable things. You understand? For years upon years, they are accustomed to eating abominable things. They are not restricted to the Lord's dietary laws. So they eating abominable things since the beginning. You understand? But people trying to say, well, it's because of that or it's because of this. But who knows? You know, in time to come, in the scriptures say all things in darkness shall come to light. In time to come, we'll find out what was really the origination of this virus. I wouldn't doubt if it is the U.S. just trying to get rid of the competition.
It's planning to invest some $800 million just this year on oil and gas exploration. And as a result, natural gas production increased year on year, registering the highest growth in 5 years in China. And China alone also accounts for a third of the global natural gas demand growth through 2020, thanks in part to the country's Blue Skies initiative, which is to improve their air quality. So strengthening natural gas development is a practical choice that meets the country's energy upgrade demand, since it's relatively easier to boost natural gas production than crude oil production due to China's lack of resources. Now, this new field is also great news for foreign investors, which effective May 1st this year can now start exploration without having to partner up with Chinese state-owned energy giants, because although China is home to some 25 billion barrels of proven oil reserves, a lot of it is locked in geologically challenging formations. So having other companies use different techniques will prove to be extremely profitable for China.
Well, it's interesting, Saya. I mean, I know how much it's a game changer for the United States to be energy independent. What is what is China saying about this? Are you seeing kind of a sort of like ripples within the crowd of going, wait a minute, could we also be possibly energy independent considering how much they do import and rely on other countries?
No, exactly. You know, just 10, 15 years ago, it was, you couldn't imagine the U.S. being a net exporter country. So you never know the path China is going to take. They could be next.
And this is going to have definitely economic, but as well as, like you said, national security benefits to China and to any country that is able to take care of themselves. Thank you so much for following this, Saya.
Take care of themselves, which we know Babylon like people to be dependent on them and not independent. Like I say, I'm not saying that is the case, but I say I would throw that in. But we know ultimately whether it is Babylon that caused the virus or not. We know ultimately it's the Lord that did it. Like I was saying, others use people don't kill people. God does kill people. He has just used people to do it. Yeah, so ultimately we know these things come from the Lord, no matter who he did it through. Right? But we know that these plagues, and I was telling somebody some time ago, these plagues are just the beginning. When destruction started to come about and it started to have rotten bodies all over the place, it might have even more viruses, worse viruses. We don't know. This is just the start. You know, I hope it was edifying. With that, I say shalom.